Hitting record. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Empowering Stepmoms virtual interview series. Reimagining the Modern Family is what we're doing. And I'm your host, Nathalie Sevell of Stepmom Strong Coaching. I help stepmoms go from overwhelm, resentment, confusion, and stress to confidence, clarity, and connection. And today, I'm so happy to be welcoming Lori Petro. Welcome, Lori. Thanks so much for being here.
Hi, Natalie. Thank you for having me.
And Lori Petro is a child advocate. She is the founder of Teach Through Love and the creator of the Conscious Communication Cards. She's dedicated to helping parents learn to communicate without blame, shame, judgment, and guilt. She created Teach Through Love as an online conscious parenting resource offering non-punitive and trauma-sensitive parenting education and support. Super helpful stuff for stepmoms today. So Lori, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you created Teach Through Love and what has motivated you to keep it going and your passion.
Definitely. So Teach Through Love has really evolved for me because I started out, my degree is in education. I went to have my bachelor's in early childhood and elementary education, but I worked in film and TV for a long time. I taught for a little while, and then I worked in film and TV, and then I started doing children's entertainment, and then that sort of evolved into helping kids overcome their fears of characters at like Disneyland and birthday parties, and this weird sort of like workshop that I would do with parents and kids, helping them get through that because kids would freak out when they'd go to Disney, and I lived in California, and it was such a huge thing. And then that sort of evolved in my own alongside my own healing journey of my childhood. And they kind of coincided at one point where I realized I was actually writing a script about a dysfunctional family, trying to overcome the challenges, going from all that stress to the clarity and connection, as you put in such a lovely way. And Teach Through Love kind of just came into my brain as transforming the emotional abuse of children. And that came about because of interactions that I noticed between parents and kids, and then reflecting on my own childhood and realizing that there was so much verbal abuse and emotional abuse, and not really having a name for that because nobody talks about it. We think of abuse as physical and sexual, but we don't really think about verbal abuse and emotional abuse. And even though they're actually present in all the other abuses. This is not to say that my parents meant to be abusive or that they had their own very dysfunctional families, but it really grew out of my own journey of healing my childhood, of understanding why certain things happened and why I behaved in certain ways and why relationships were difficult. And then I became a parent. I actually remember a couple of years before I started the online Teach Through Love resource, I was handing out pamphlets and brochures with Teach Through Love and statistics about verbal abuse and how we can change it. And I really didn't know what to do with this Teach Through Love that had come into my head, just sort of in this insightful moment. And then I got pregnant. My husband and I got pregnant by surprise. We were not planning on children, and it was not and it was like, oh, and it just sort of evolved from there. I created this website. Like, it was so all just, coincidental, divinely inspired, whatever you want to call it. It just sort of unfolded in that way. And then being a parent really helped me focus in on, okay, this is how we can make real change by just helping parents feel less stressed, helping us. And then that really became communication. Going right back to the verbal abuse that it all started with, and how can we learn to speak in different ways so that we can create more connection. Still setting limits, because that's what I feel like parents, before I had children, it was easy to look outside but not understand how I could create that bond, because I never had it with my own parents. So, and I think I mentioned to you, my own stepmom was so instrumental in my life and in that healing of mine. So I love the support that you're giving.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love what you're doing too. So tell us why you call yourself a child advocate rather than a parent educator or a parent coach, because it sounds like you do a lot of work with parents, and most people out there are calling themselves a coach or educator for parents. So
I did. And I did that for a long time. So that was sort of the transition for me, was I realized that I didn't want to continue in one-on-one sessions. I never really did a lot of one-on-one sessions was not my focus. Group trainings, online trainings was sort of my focus for a while. But then I created so many. I really love to just create the resources. I love doing the talks, but I don't love like a constant educational schedule. Like I'm not good at, like, I wouldn't be a good counselor because I get so depleted, and I would like have sessions with parents where I'm not even counseling. I would call myself an educator then, but they needed support. So I was a coach and I was supportive. And I think even though I wasn't trained as a counselor, I still acted very much in that counseling role, because as parents, we need a lot of support, especially when we're at the end of our rope. But I realized that wasn't a good fit for me to be doing that one-on-one, because I wasn't getting the time to create the products that I create, to create the trainings. And now I'm really, my focus is getting the trainings out there to support larger groups. So I have work with like the Los Angeles County Office of Education, their foster youth services department, getting trauma sensitive trainings to people that serve larger communities. But in the delivery of that information, not me actually going out there. So I'm an advocate because I want to help create the systems that will create the change. I want to advocate for kids that are in schools and they're getting punitive discipline applied when they're actually traumatized and they need more, no punitive discipline at all, because it's actually worse for kids who have experienced that kind of situation, whatever kind of trauma it may be. Mm-hmm. So I'm an advocate because I want to help make big level changes through the products that I create, the trainings that I create, partnering with other nonprofits to provide training for them so they can have the trainings available for their communities. So I'm really wanting to be out there advocating for change rather than supporting parents one-on-one.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. It's like getting their needs met instead of reacting to their behavior, like with punishment or whatever. It's like there's an underlying need underneath their behavior. So it's trying to meet those needs and help other people learn to meet those needs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Speaking to the larger need and not just like that immediate, I have a challenge. And that's great. There are people, I have trained a bunch of wonderful women who are now out in their communities using my program to support, women and families, dads too, not just moms, but moms and dads, one-on-one and in smaller educational settings that they can, because that was their sort of passion. So I love, training other people even to do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of times parents and step parents are using blame and shame and judgment, as you mentioned in your intro, more than they realize. So can you tell us, like, what does blame, shame, and judgment, what do those look like, and what do they do to kids when the kids are receiving that from parents?
So, and now this is not to put any blame or shame or judgment or guilt on parents. I just want to say that out loud, because when I created my cards, I was writing these example of situations and then trying to transform the language, and I was writing it from my own experience because I was like, I should not have said that. What do I say next time? This is good. This will help.
It can happen very easily, right? That is inserted in our language and in the way we're saying things.
It does, because the thing is, we get triggered, we get reactive, and so our thinking brain shuts down. We lose access to our language, so we're losing all of our ability to respond thoughtfully and with words that are not full of judgment. But something just as as simple as, that wasn't very nice. Why would you do that? Or you might even just say it in a very calm tone. You're like, that wasn't very nice. Why would you do that to your friend? It seems like it's harmless.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I said that to my son this morning.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
That's our immediate reaction. So the fact that we have that thought is not the challenge. But I want us to think about, what am I really trying to help my child with in this moment? Is it a skill that they're struggling with? Did they just hit their little brother because he was running so fast past him and it startled him? And he hit him because he's 6 or 4 and he doesn't have a lot of, we say, a 6-year-old has language. Yes, but when we get threatened, our ability to stay connected to that thinking part of our brain and be thoughtful is very immature. It's very inefficient. So we lose it like that when we're 6. We lose it like that sometimes when we're 30 or 44, right? So So it's not something, it's a muscle that we really need to strengthen. So a 4-year-old or a 3-year-old especially, or the little kids, they get very reactive very quickly. So if we say something like, well, that wasn't very nice, that's true. But they already know that because we've come to address the situation, or somebody turned back and hit them back, or, whatever the natural consequence of that situation. So what are we looking to help that child with? Is it a skill that they're needing to work on being more regulated? Maybe kids go through phases where they're really impulsive, or there's a stress that's making them very reactive. And so the aggression comes out really quick. Maybe it's a skill we're working on. It's like, we know it's not okay to hit, but when you feel that anger and you feel it in your hands, clap them together. This is going to help a 3-year-old or a 6-year-old or a 4-year-old, or even, an older child that's hitting. When I feel that, get a stress ball. I want something to squeeze. So we have these things around the house too. We want to have stress tools around the house for kids when they're trying to work on skills. Maybe this is a point where we're having we don't feel really connected to that child, or that child doesn't feel really connected to us. And so that not nice thing that they just did, whatever it was a call to say, I need attention. I'm feeling disconnected and I don't know what to do with myself. Mm-hmm. So telling them that that's not nice, use your words, it's just not helpful. But getting down and saying, I see that you're really angry. It looks like when you called my name and I didn't answer, I think you got really upset. Is that true? Then the child realizes that they reacted because they were feeling something. They needed connection. They didn't know how to get it, and they reacted. Still doesn't make it okay.
Right.
But now the child can say, oh, I felt like, where did you feel it in your body when you got really mad? You hit your brother. Where did you feel it before you did that? And maybe they can tell you, maybe they can't. Some kids like to draw it out, using colors or pictures to tell you about how they're feeling. So every kid's going to be different here, but there's always something underneath the behavior. So you asked just what are those examples, but that's not nice. So that's just something that said, oh, now once in a while, no, that's not going to have some detrimental effect, right? We say it once. This is not about perfection and getting like the right words all the time. This is just about becoming aware of how the messages that we're sending to our children are not necessarily the messages that we think we're sending. For another example, just a quick one, we may be thinking we're being helpful. If anyone has a shy child or a sensitive child and they walk into a party and they don't leave your side for the first half an hour. And we might want to urge that child, we might say, oh, stop being so shy. Everybody here. Why don't you just go join your friends or say hello? We give them all this sort of advice and counsel. I'm not saying that we're directly shaming or judging, but what the message that the child gets is what I'm feeling is not okay. And I should be more this. If I only felt this way, I could do this. I could join in. I could say hello. I could leave my mom's side. And then we might get frustrated thinking we're doing something wrong or thinking there's something wrong with our child. And we might say, well, if you don't want to go join your friends, then we're just going to leave. And we think, oh, that'll urge them, or maybe they really don't want to be here. But then the child just gets more shut down into their stress response, and they will either get more agitated, and some kids get aggressive, or some kids will just shut down. But again, the message that we're sending is this feeling that you're having, this experience is not okay. It should be different.
Right. I'm supposed to be different. The way that I am is not okay. I'm feeling sensitive or shy, and that's not okay because mommy and daddy are saying that it's not okay.
Right. And we're not trying, as parents, we're not trying to say that it's not okay, but kids can't separate what we say about their behavior with how we feel about them. They just think they're one and the same, especially little kids, before they're like 8, 9, 10, they just whatever we say about their behavior is what we think about them. So if we say that's not nice, we're telling them they're not nice. And then they take the message away of I'm not nice. Unintentionally on our part, but that's just how the brain incorporates the situation, because every interaction that we have, the brain is recording not just what happens, like the actual events, but the memory of how we felt. So if we felt scared or threatened, we're not in a learning mode. We're recording a memory that's based in a fearful experience. And so anytime then a similar experience comes up, a teacher says, well, that wasn't very nice. And they say it with even a calm sense of, wanting to know more even, but the child gets triggered into, that's not nice, I'm not nice, I'm bad. And suddenly we just have, and when kids feel bad about themselves, they're less able to make good choices. They worry about making better choices, so they shut down quicker. Sometimes they don't make choices. They're hesitant to make decisions. They wait for everything to be done for them because they don't want to mess up. It's kind of like, well, if I'm going to, if I risk this, is it really worth the risk of mom being upset with me? Because they so depend on our affection. Not that we can't show anger or can't show sadness when things happen that go wrong, but on our attachment, on that relationship, on feeling like we're connected.
Right. Like we're validating them for who they are. And we're like, I don't know if approval is the right word, but just.
Well, they do want our approval.
Recognition and validation. Yeah.
Right. And not our approval again of their behavior, but their approval of, oh yes, you made a mistake. I still love you. You are a good person. You made this mistake. You hit your brother and that hurt him and he didn't feel good about it and you don't feel good about it. You're a good person. We all make bad choices sometimes. That, having that conversation, and maybe not right in that moment too, because if a child is not regulated, if they're not calm, they're not going to be receptive to any of that language.
That's a good point. And I've even seen, so I'm a psychotherapist too. I don't know if you knew that, but so I see adults, I work with adults, and I've seen, people come in with a lot of anxiety. They're very high functioning. They're doing everything right. And they have tons of anxiety. And they're like, my parents were amazing. They were so great. Like I had the perfect childhood. And then we keep digging further and further. And it turns out exactly some situation like what you're saying, where their parents put them into a box of, you're supposed to be this way, not the way that you're actually feeling. So they ignored all their feelings and repressed all their feelings of sensitivity or self-consciousness or whatever it was that they really needed support with back then. Mm-hmm. And then it is repressed and like buried under until they become adults. And then sometimes it comes out when they're 24 and they're like, what the heck's going on? I don't know who I am anymore.
Oh,
right?
You're so hitting it. And it just speaks to the truth of it because we've never met before. We're in completely different places. And yet you are meeting people with the exact same experience who had great, like these great childhoods, but there was this neglect of our emotions because it was like, you're better than this. Maybe you're the straight A student and you never make mistakes. Oh, she's such a great student and she's always on the la. And then the kids think, if I don't get on that, I'm not going to be, they won't approve or they won't. And not that was ever the intention.
Right.
It was just who was helping our parents or their parents deal with their emotions. It wasn't part of the survival strategy that a lot of families are coming from. We think back to, we have it kind of easy now. We're relatively safe. There's not, we do have people going off to war and getting, traumas like that. But I think it's gotten relatively easier and technology and, prosperity and things have, it may not have evened out around the world, but our lives are a little bit easier than say maybe our grandparents or our great-great-grandparents. And
right. We have the luxury to explore our emotions.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you for summing up my very long tangent of trying to say that. Yes, we do. We have the luxury of really getting to know what drives me, what motivates me. Why am I feeling this? Why am I so triggered by the child who isn't listening to me? Mm-hmm. And it's suddenly we're like, oh, I just need to be listened to in general. And then we can go, oh, that's really not my child's responsibility. And now I'm not as offended anymore because I've realized what was missing in me or what I was just even reacting to. Even if it's not missing, just being aware of it can help us feel more calm. And then we can be more emotionally responsive to our kids.
Yeah. And I think when we do have those reactions, it's like you're saying, it's a trigger from our past, something that's coming up that needs to be healed. So the more we pay attention to it, the more we can do the things we need to do to take care of that emotion that wasn't accepted maybe when we were kids, but now we're adults. So we get to like do that work of accepting it in ourselves and taking care of ourselves and getting our needs met however we can and all that stuff. Yeah. And for some moms, it's so important because they tend to just get into these situations and put everyone else first. And they're like running around taking care of the kids and they're taking care of maybe their husband or their partner and they're taking on all that responsibility to the neglect of their own emotional well-being, and it catches up with them eventually. So
yeah, and maybe not being appreciated by, especially depending on the family, blended families, the kids. You can feel like you want to give so that you're liked, or that you blend well, or that everybody feels accepted. And then not everybody's in a different place, and it doesn't mean that you're not appreciated, but if we're not seeing it, it can make us feel like we're not giving enough.
Yeah.
That it's just one of those things that I know that can just run into.
Definitely. I've had moments where I'm like, I should have a trophy for what I'm doing I want like a trophy. I want a red carpet and I want a trophy. It's like, that's not a good reason. That's not a good like motivation to do stuff. So it's really like checking myself to be like, am I doing this with expectation of a trophy at the end? Or am I doing it because I'm willing and able and, doing this from love, right?
Exactly.
So,
and it can feel empowering once you get to that place, because then suddenly you can take care of yourself then. You're not waiting for everybody else to make you feel that I can own this, and I actually have some power around this. I can do something about this.
Yeah, it's much more empowering than to be like, I'm the victim of this circumstance. Yeah. Nobody appreciates me.
Exactly. And being silent sometimes. I think my stepmom was never, because I was older when she married my dad, we didn't have a motherly relationship, but she was such a supportive person in my life and she didn't need to do anything special. She just needed to care. Like she didn't need to put forth anything special to create this bond, she didn't actually try. The fact that she was just herself and loving and open and caring was all she needed to be.
Yeah.
So you don't have to sort of, overdo it just to.
Sometimes less is more with stepmotherhood. Yeah. I have a great stepdad too, and I'm always like, you're such a good example, because his best quality is that he keeps his mouth shut like so much of the time. And I'm so grateful, because I know he's probably thinking all kinds of things about us, and like what my mom and whatever, so yeah, I admire that. I tend to be a loudmouth, so it's a skill that I continually work on, is like keeping my mouth shut. So tell us about your conscious communication cards. What are those all about?
So these are cards that I just one day so I have my Facebook page is where I started sharing, just what everybody shares, articles, memes, pictures. And one day I just shared a picture of, I had taken a picture of my backyard, and I posted what we normally say in a situation. Like, say there's a situation where you want hurry up is something you say to your children a lot in the morning, when you're like, hurry up, we have to leave, we have to go, hurry up. And so how that conversation normally goes, why aren't your shoes? Why are you still, eating breakfast? Why is it taking you so long? All of those questions that we have that don't really have a good answer anyway, right, that we say in the morning that stresses everybody out. And then on the bottom, I put how we could have that same interaction, but removing the blame, the shame, the judgment, and the guilt, and just coming from this place of noticing what we see, just observing the situation, empathizing, connecting through empathizing with what we see going on, acknowledging a child's feelings, their needs, and then problem solving, then moving to this place of problem solving. And they just became really popular on Facebook. And so I would make them, and then people would say, well, are they cards? Are they cards? Do you have them? Can I buy them? I was like, no, I don't know how to do that. I don't have a publisher. I don't even know what that means. I can do a lot of things, but I don't know what to. And it just finally, people were like, oh, well, you should raise money. You should do a Kickstarter. People would love that. And I ran a Kickstarter and made the cards. And what they are 45, there's 45 cards, and they're split into 3 areas, which I mentioned earlier in our talk. So I always like to look at behavior from this lens. We can pinpoint any challenge to one or more of these 3 areas, and they are support, stress, and skills. So does the child need to reconnect? Is the child having a stress, are they in stress response right now? Or are they overstimulated? Do we need to help them calm down and regulate? Or is this a skill building moment? You know, my child is being defiant and reactive because this is tough and they don't really know how to do it, and they have to practice, you know, cleaning up on their own, but they really don't want to do it because they're used to us just doing it. But now they're 7 and it's time to take the, you know, the broom and the dustpan and do it yourself. But can we deliver that without all that parental self-righteousness about, well, you're old enough and you're a big boy and you should do it yourself, and, you know, all these things that we can get into this language which disconnects us, and it doesn't motivate our children to, you know, do things that are hard for them, because nobody really wants to do things that are hard for them. But when we feel supported and when we're not being threatened with punishment or fear or shame or blame, we overcome that discomfort. We move through that feeling of, you know, resistance to try. You know, we're vulnerable enough to try. So the cards are divided into 3 color-coded areas to represent how we can speak to children differently in 3 of those different areas. Now, obviously, any of the, I like to say they're not scripts, because they, there's no exact language for what they say. But on each of the cards, I could probably just hold one up just to show you an example.
Yeah, I love that. It makes it so succinct. That's great.
So on the, like, there's the card. So the top card has what we normally, there it is. The bottom is the section that we look to. And on the bottom section, well, on the top section is the language that we normally use, you know, the traditional kind of way that we might handle a situation. And then on the bottom section, in the blue, there are, so there's a blue section on there. That's sort of our directions to change our perspective. So it might say something like, instead of, you know, we want to avoid judging, right? We want to avoid blaming. We want to avoid all of that. And instead, we want to set compassionate limits. So we might say something like, you know, as much as you disagree with this, I'm not going to change my mind, but I'm willing to hear what you have to say and know that this is hard for you. Now, there's shortened versions and it goes through all that, but it'll say, the blue section gives us that perspective change. So it may say acknowledge feelings, because we say, I don't know what to say if I'm not judging or blaming or setting a punishment. What do I do? Just acknowledge the feelings. Just notice a name. Validate.
So can you give us an example of like a morning, the morning routine you said?
Yeah.
Or just like the morning routine that you were talking about, where you're like, why haven't you put your shoes on? Why haven't you eaten your breakfast? What's taking you so long? Which they don't. Right?
Yeah, so here's the hurry up card right now. I have that we talked about earlier. So hurry up. So some things we might say, you know, what's taking you so long? We covered that one. You know, you need to hurry up. It's almost time to leave. Stop fooling around. I'm trying to be patient. Who has said that? I'm trying to be patient, but you're pushing me. You know, it's like, and then we become the whiners as the parents. We're like, please stop fooling around. Please just put your shoes on. Please, right?
I'm starting to get frustrated.
Right. And so we want to avoid shifting that responsibility. You know, we might say, you know, well, once again, we're late. I just don't know what to do anymore. And it's suddenly then, you know, we sort of miss the teachable moment because we're shifting the responsibility. We're challenging, you know, when we say, what's taking you so long? Whatever they say isn't going to be good enough. They're going to say, well, Mom, I saw my Lego and I need to clean it out. And we're going to say, well, it doesn't matter. We need to go.
Right.
So why even challenge them with the question? I want to avoid the demands of you need to hurry up. That doesn't give kids a lot of information. So on the bottom, on the hurry up section, for this situation rather, the first thing we can do is prompt with a question. So instead of asking the question of what's taking you so long, we can prompt with a question and say, how much time do you think you need to finish getting ready? So now we've just started to just zone in on what's important. How much time do you think you need? Now, maybe a 4-year-old isn't going to be able to answer this question. And a 6-year-old might be able to answer it. They might not be very accurate because their sense of time might still not be so, you know, they can't say, 15 minutes and know what that means. But maybe we have timers. Like, let's look at the timer. How much time? And you know what? A little kid's going to love if you get one of those timers that you feel it when you turn it. These are, you know, it's a sensory way to get our kids involved in their environment, control over their environment.
Yeah.
But just an older kid who's still laying in bed, you know, it's so much more effective to go in and start the conversation by saying, how much more time do you think you need to get ready? Just prompt with whatever that question may be. You know, maybe that question is, do you have your backpack ready? I saw it was still or do you need any help with your backpack? Might even be, you know, just offering help instead of, you know, your backpack's still, you know, lying on the floor. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to get it? You know, or is your backpack, is it filled? Is it ready? Do you have everything you need? Is your homework in it? Did you get your lunch? Like, there's so many questions So when I say prompt with a question, I don't mean interrogate our children. Like, don't go in and start, giving the rundown of things, but just take notice of the situation. So whatever is going on, we can notice it and name it without that judgment.
Yeah.
And
then
even
for the younger ones, you can give them an option too, right? Like, do you think you need 5 more minutes before you put your playtime, or do you need 10 more minutes of play? And they get that. Like my almost 4-year-old, he gets that. Like, oh, 10 is longer than 5. Okay, like,
right. Like
I participate, and oftentimes he'll say 5, and I'm like, great, let's set the timer, and then we do, and he's happy to listen to the timer more than me,
Exactly. Now here's the thing: a kid, if the timer goes off and they're still not ready, this is where we might get frustrated because we think, well, I put in the time to set this up with you, right? Like I went through so much trouble to set it up and set up the time, and we got the timer.
Lori taught me.
And we talked about it, and you looked at me in your eyes and you said, yes, mommy, 10 more minutes. And then they're like, no, I don't want 10, I want 5 more. And then that's where we might feel a little defensive. Like, I gave you, and then that's why parents might say, well, I give them an inch and they take a mile. And it's like, it's okay for him to be upset at that moment too. I know you had that 10 minutes and that made you just want more. Doesn't mean we let them to keep playing. It's maybe as I'm picking him up and holding his hand and walking him out the door and he's crying and you're like, I know you just want to play with those Legos all day long. So much fun. And as you hand the coat to him and he's putting, because what we don't want to do is we don't want to stress them more at that situation. So if we start getting defensive, then we just have 2 heads butting. All the thinking brains are off. So we don't have to get offended by that behavior. We can just be curious about it too. Tell me about what you would do if you could play all day long and we never had to leave to go to school. Or I never had to leave to go to work, and just having them be able to fantasize about that without it being judged as, well, that can't happen. Well, I know that you want to play all day, but we can't play all day. We always want to give kids like the real world, but they don't need to live in that world yet. And their brains aren't mature enough to handle it. They don't handle transitions as well as adults do. So just giving them the empathy to let them have bad feelings that come up. For my kid, it's when we're home, anything can come out. Whatever kind of feeling you have, this is the place. If you feel like you need to hit something, well, we're going to help you find something that you can bang your hands into to hit. If you feel like you need to say a bad word, she's 12 now, so she hears a lot more than she heard when she was 4 or 6, just out in the world, and she has feelings about people that are much stronger than she did when she was little, and sometimes she doesn't know how to express that without feeling like she's attacking someone or being mean, but she's so emotionally aware that she doesn't want to just do that. But she also knows, I think she's emotionally aware because she knows at home is where she can unload. That is where she can let her worst self be shown. That doesn't mean that we speak disrespectfully to each other. Like, I think we think if we let kids have that, then that will always be what happens. But it's not. We just need to be their place where their refuge, that safe base where they can let out all the ugly so that they can find the light and the love that's really in there. But they have to be able to unload those feelings or those words or whatever anxiety is bothering them with somebody.
Right.
But just to really wrap up the hurry up card, the prompt with the question, offer to help, I put your backpack by the door, just letting them know what you did to help instead of questioning. And then sometimes kids are really slow to get motivated in the morning because they're worried about something that's going to happen at school today. So just being curious about their day, is anything important happening at school today? Or, is anything going on that, we need to prepare for, just to make sure that everything's, that may help them feel like, oh, they can express, I'm really worried about this test, or I have this friend that I've been having a challenge with and they're always going off with this other group. And suddenly you have this outpouring of emotions. And here you thought it was, a lazy challenge. Oh, they're just so lazy. They don't want to get up and do things. And here they were worried. There was some kind of anxiety. So these conversations are not about, again, making our kids do things, but about opening the conversation so that they can feel safe to find the coping tools, to express what they're feeling, or to ask for the coping tools. Sometimes they don't know that they need to cope.
Right.
So they don't know that they need a coping tool, but if they feel safe enough to say, I'm really worried about my friend, she isn't paying attention to me, she doesn't want to sit with me at lunch anymore, I'm really worried about this test that I have, or I'm really worried because you're working a lot and I'm not going to see you before I go to bed at night, or, little kids have worries like that, especially when they're going off. So
Yeah.
just being curious about the situation, connecting with them nonverbally can move them to hurry up much faster than, the nagging or the arguing.
Yeah.
Can
And
do.
I think especially stepkids who are going back and forth between two houses, they often have a lot of emotions that if no one is giving them space to express, it comes out in rebellious behavior or defiance or, taking a long time to get out the door or, resisting going to bed at night because they're sad that they're not with mommy and they're with daddy. And so as a stepmom, I found that something that I can do is hold space for my stepson when he's really upset. His dad can't always handle it, right? Like it's really hard for his dad, but I can just be there just to listen. Like, this has got to be really hard for you. Like, I'm so sorry. I'm sure you miss mommy. Yeah. And he, it's not like he's saying specifically, I mean, sometimes he is, but sometimes he's saying like nonsense, just like, I don't want to take a shower. Daddy's mean. And I'm like, he just has other emotions that are going on that need to get out some way. And he doesn't know how to express it verbally. So he's having a fit about something else. So it's like, just letting them do that, right? Like they have to get that stuff out, which I think is actually easier to do with my stepson than my son in some ways, because my son, when he's upset, I want to like rush in and make everything better right away, right? Like
so you have, you're like more, it's
biologically,
you're more responsible. You're like, I have to get in there.
Right, I have to save you. I have to fix this, right? And so with my stepson, I can be like a little bit more detached where I'm just like able to better hold space. So I think that's a really cool thing for stepmoms to kind of be able to take on if they're willing and they're up for it and they have the energy and the patience. I mean, I don't always have the patience and the energy, but when I do, it's a great thing to be able to do. And I also love what you said about like the stress toys, because that's something stepmoms can definitely participate in. Stepmoms struggle with like knowing their role and what they can and can't do, and they can't always discipline, but they can have stress tools on hand with like a ball to like hand a kid in a moment, right?
Yes, and that's what I love about like when I'm helping parents. I say this is discipline that you can do to anybody's kid, because it's not punitive. There's nothing about anything that I do that any parent would get upset with. Because I mean, I can't say that absolutely. But it's about connecting. It's about like setting a boundary, but doing it safely. I mean, I may have to be a physical boundary for someone, but I would never encourage someone to, yell at a child or punish a child. Like there's nothing that when we're connecting, we're just being open, offering, like you said, holding space. It's such a beautiful term. I think a lot of people don't always know what that means, but it's just being present to what's going on, right? It's just being present to that emotion, and that's all you need to do sometimes.
Just I'm here for you.
Yes,
that's it. And then quiet.
Yeah. So that you can do so much.
With that?
We can do so much. Or you can do so much, even if you're a step parent feeling like you're overstepping.
Yeah.
Just being the calm presence in the room can be so helpful to everyone else.
Yeah, it's very non-invasive. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Lori. This has been so fun. I could talk to you for hours, but we have to cut it off. I have another interview. But thank you for being here, and I'm sure that the stepmoms watching will get a lot of value. How can people find you and your work?
We go on Facebook. We have a really great community on there. Teach Through Love. You can just go to the website, teachthroughlove.com, and find more about me. But Facebook, we always post, tools and articles and information like this lovely event that you're doing just to support people, because that's really what it is about, just creating community and connection. So
great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Natalie.
Take care. Bye, everyone. See you next time.